We live in a world ruled by tyranny, where knowledge is suppressed and ignorance is glorified. A world where propaganda and misinformation travel the airways at the speed of lies. But in the midst of the violence and chaos, a great awakening is taking place. And as the media empires continue to collapse, a new network is forming. A network of truth, a network of courage, a network of awareness. Peace and greetings. You are now tuned into the Network of Awareness podcast radio station, where we examine current events, politics, health, finance, and topics of cultural relevance in America and throughout the world, while bringing you insightful interviews with guests that will both educate and inspire you. And now, your host of the Network of Awareness podcast radio station, ORRA the Informationalist.
Just tell me what's happening to me in plain English without the mumbo jumbo.
My aura is a network full of awareness and gifts like Aura, the informationalist.
How you doing? How you doing? How you doing?
Peace and greetings. Welcome to the Network of Awareness. This is ORRA the Informationalist, owner and founder of the Network of Awareness, and I want to welcome you to Testament Thursday. And we got a great show lined up for you today. We got an interview with a very special guest. And today's episode is growing to serve organically. And today I'm going to bring on guest Walter Davis, who is a family man, a man of the Most High. He is the owner and founder of Davis and Daughter Farms, LLC, in Urban Farm, specializing in microgreens, oyster mushrooms, cacao, small to mid-sized scale composting, and consulting for home growers. Based out of Douglasville, Georgia. Shout outs to all the brothers and sisters out in Georgia. We got one of your very own today. And the brother is growing to serve organically. So we're going to talk to Walter and get a great understanding about farming, about crops, agriculture, the state of agriculture these days, especially when it comes to the foods that we eat. We're going to learn about how he came into his purpose in serving to grow organically, and how it's connected to how he serves the Most High. And how farming and what farming's done for him and his family, as well as how farming has helped him serve in great purpose the Most High. So, with that being said, brothers and sisters, we're going to bring on Walter in just a moment. And welcome to this live show on Testament Thursdays. I hope that you get great edification from this show. And just a few updates. We got some more guests coming up next week. Like I mentioned, we're going to have guest Jan Wade coming on. We're also going to do some more shows where I do the solo casting and talk about just what's going on in current events, some of the things that you might not know of or be aware of. And we got the new website coming out on Monday. So you'll see the new website up, which I'll be definitely promoting hard. And a lot of good things coming up. And I'm not going to spoil the fun because it's going to be a surprise. But until then, let's get this show started right. Let's get this show started quickly, right?
You are now tuned in to the Network of Awareness.
All right. So, shalom, brother, and welcome to the Network of Awareness.
Shalom. Peace and blessings to you and yours, brother, and everybody out there in the world that can hear us, that's in the sound of our voice, that can hear this message. So all praises. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate you.
Yes, no problem, bro. And I appreciate you being here on the show and giving your knowledge and wisdom on this thing called agriculture and farming, something that I really admire and respect any man or woman that is involved in this, because I think that this is probably one of the most important things that brothers and sisters can be involved in when it comes to our health. So with that being said, let's get it started. You basically got your company, you got your farm out in Douglasville. So what compelled you to want to get into farming? Is this something you always wanted to do as a child, or what started the process in you getting into this?
Great question. Bit of a long story. I'll try to give you the condensed version of it. In short, I like to tell people that I'm a third generation educator and a third generation farmer. So I feel like my work is a part of my ministry. Let's see, my company started out as an after-school gardening club. I am an educator by trade. I spent 15 years of my life teaching young people what their talents are, what their gifts are, and how to maximize their gifts and their potential and their service to the Most High, right? So I taught in public school setting, primarily middle, high school for the most part, for about 12 years. 2018, when I kind of started to make a transition out of education into agriculture. I just saw a need, right? I saw the children were interested in growing food. I was interested in doing more than I've already done in the past before. So I got a grant from Lowe's, and I got some funding in, and I was able to start the club. COVID hit, the schools got shut down, and had to make a transition with the club because we couldn't meet anymore. So I was able to actually fund students and other teachers and other people that was in my personal network. I was able to fund them get their own home gardens started. So that's kind of where my company started, and that was what I said, like 2019. And from then on, we've just been growing and growing and growing.
Well, praises for that, bro. So, what was the one thing that inspired it all when you first made that decision to start teaching people about urban farming? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was that one spark that you finally got that, I guess some people call it an epiphany, or what was that one spark that really led to it all?
Well, for me, I've always been intentional about my work being in service to the Most High and to the community, and my work and my ministry being together, right? I feel like just if we just thinking about things just from a logical standpoint, just numbers, right? There's only a certain amount of hours in the day, right? And how can we make the most impact with the hours that we have to help our people, to help ourselves, most importantly, because we can't help others if we are not helping ourselves.
Facts.
And like, what can I do, right? And so I just ask the Most High, and this is what I tell everyone that I come across, my students, brothers and sisters, when they're kind of in that place where they don't really know what to do, they feel like they don't know what their talents are, they don't know which direction to take. Pray, fast, get on your knees, get on your face, and sincerely go to the Most High and ask Him. So, I mean, that's what I did. And as a person, just to go back to where, my farming practice started at, which was from that after school gardening club, I got into education because I asked the Most High, like, what do you want me to do? Like, how can I serve the people, right? And I got the answer to go teach young people. And when I got the answer, I was like, no, I hate school. Like, I don't want to go back. Like, one of the things that motivated me to graduate high school was the extreme hatred that I have for school as an institution. Like, I love learning, love reading, love doing experiments. I did science experiments on my own as a kid. That's the type of nerd I was. You know what I'm saying? But the school as an institution, I hated it. I didn't like the environment, too tough. I had all type of issues, So I asked the Most High what he wanted me to do. He told me to go back into that environment and lead some of our young people out and really help them. So I guess if I can answer your question as far as what sparked it, it was that. It was the Most High touched me and said, this is what I want you to do. Go do it. And ever since then, it's been pure tunnel vision on the goals and really helping our people, both mentally, spiritually, and physically. Because I feel like these things are important and combined together. A lot of times we spend a lot of time, especially brothers and sisters, with understanding, we spend a lot of time focusing on that spiritual side of it. But there's a physical aspect to this life and a physical part that ties into the spiritual that we have to pay attention to and spend time, effort, energy doing that. So I just, the Most High touched me, brother, and just told me this is what I want you to do and go. And ever since then, it's been on.
Wonderful. And I'm glad that you said all that, because brothers and sisters, especially the young brothers and sisters, are going to be tuning into the show. They really need to grasp what you said right there so they can avoid wasting time like some of us have trying to figure things out and what is meaningful in our lives. Because if we're not doing what we love to do, then we're really not living. We're waiting to die, pretty much.
Right.
So you talked about how important it is, and this is something that I really want to get into with you as far as like how important it is to take care of yourself physically with the body. It's important to have physical health, mental health, and spiritual health. And you talked about fasting. Can you tell me a little bit about what fasting has done for you, and the if you can also share with the listeners some of the I guess the word would be some of the biological benefits from fasting, as well as the spiritual benefits from fasting as well.
Okay. Fasting is an incredible tool. If you're not using it enough, you're doing yourself a great disservice. Fasting has the ability to cleanse your body. It gives your body an opportunity to take a break from processing food, and especially from processing it from dealing with the type of food that we eat and ingest in our what can I say, Western societies and this culture, especially like America, where we eat a lot of processed stuff. The fasting is absolutely critical, and that's just one entryway of toxins into our body. So the fasting actually does an incredible job of helping the body to alleviate those toxins. However, in order to get the benefit of that, it's suggested, a lot of literature or research suggests that you have to fast for at least 3 days in order to get that detoxing benefit. So I would encourage brothers and sisters If you never in your life fasted for more than one day, I would greatly encourage you to try at some point here in the near future to fast for multiple days in a row, so you can get that detoxing benefit of fasting. On the spiritual side, I could speak for myself personally. When I fasted for multiple days at a time, and I feel lighter. I feel like my mind is more clear. I feel less bogged down by the things going on in the outward environment and even internally inside of me. I feel much more at peace. So I feel more connected to the Lord. I feel more connected to the nature and stuff that's around me when I'm outdoors and stuff. So yeah, fasting is an incredible tool. And again, I just want to strongly suggest to people that if you could do it health-wise, if you don't have any type of, limiting factors with your health, that fasting for multiple days is the move without a doubt.
Very well said. I mean, you pretty much took the words out of my mouth as far as from my perspective on fasting, because I just not too long ago, I just did a 7-day fast. And the level of clarity is just amazing. It really is. I wish I could fast every day for the rest of my life, because my shows, when I do solo casting and I'm just in the spirit and everything is just crystal clear. And something you mentioned about like not only do you see things for what they truly are, but the ways of the world, of the worldly world of things, it doesn't boggle down in your mind as much. Like it doesn't matter to you because you're filled with that, what I call that Holy Spirit of just understanding. And that's where the clarity comes from the Most High, because you haven't, you pretty much cleared your body out to be that clean vessel. Fasting is interesting. You said the 3 days, because ever since I started fasting and since I did this 7-day, which probably one of the longest ones I've ever done, I'm fasting now 2 days a week. And I might go to 3 based on what you just said right now. So, because I love it. I just love it, especially when I'm doing the radio and mixing and engineering and all that. It's just, everything is crystal clear. Let's talk about a little bit about your faith in the Most High. When it came to your, to the skills that you were developing when it comes to farming and growing up as a kid, did you always have a relationship with the Most High, or how did that come about, your understanding of the Most High?
Well, I would say that I always had a relationship with the Most High, even when I wasn't aware of it. So, let's see, I can say I started to become aware of the things around me wasn't right, probably when I was about 17 years old. So from a 17, maybe 16, 17, 18 years old, I was, living in the beautiful, dark, twisted city of New Orleans. That's where I'm from. And just looking, listening, watching, and how people have dealt with me my entire life, because I always was treated like outcast, black sheep, just to kind of give you an example of that for me, what it was like for me growing up. Like, I like different type of music. Like, I feel like I'm kind of eclectic in that sense, right? And I went to an all-black high school, prestigious high school in the city of New Orleans, McDonald 35, the first high school established for black students in America, 1910, right? Like, prestigious, historic high school, all black people, bro, beautiful, But when you're a little different, you get treated different. You get looked at differently. So, and because of that, I was treated, like this, like the white boy in the school, or this, they just say, just treat me all type of ways,
Yes.
It was rumors that said that I was a devil worshiper in my school because I liked certain music, right? So that's kind of, how I was ostracized in that way. But then I realized that it wasn't me. Like, I wasn't really the strange one. I wasn't the one that was off. It was everybody. It was the world around me just was sick and twisted about the world around me. And when I came to that realization, that's what started to lead me to the Most High. So, the year 2000s, when I graduated high school, I found the website for the 12 Tribes of Israel. Back in the day, that was the name of the church that came out of the House of David. That church came out of One West. I found the information when I was still living in New Orleans. Then when I moved to Atlanta a year later, I joined the church here, and I've been a member of the church ever since 2001, at the age of 19. So I've been in this walk from early on as a young man, learning to serve the Lord, to follow the example of Christ. So it's been a very educational time for me. It's been beautiful as well. I'm extremely grateful.
All praises. And the church he's talking about, brothers and sisters, is the BOCC, the Body of Christ Church, that has their hub, even though they're located throughout the world in certain locations around this country and around the UK and other places. Their primary location is in the ATL of Georgia. And shout outs to all the people listening in from Louisiana as well. We got a nice group of listeners from Louisiana. So can you tell us a little bit about farming and some of the things that you go through in order to, maintain a farm throughout the year in Georgia? Some of the things that people should be aware of when it comes to farming, because there's a lot of people that are listening to this or going to be listening to this broadcast that are very much interested in getting into farming, for the simple fact that we live in a society now, or world, that is attacking the food. I mean, it's always been attacking the food, but the food is being attacked at a level that is it's sometimes flabbergasting, where it's like you just are so shocked and in awe of how consistent and deliberate the attack on food is. I mean, to the point right now where there's a lot of meat that is being sold in the supermarkets that you can't even eat because it has so many damn parasites. And now the parasites are starting to become more visible. It's not even like inside the meat where it's camouflage. It's like right there as soon as you open up the packet. The other big problem is, have you heard about those people that have bought lettuce from the Dole company and have gotten different types of illnesses and viruses, or not viruses, different types of worms and all of that, from the lettuce down to tomatoes having hepatitis and herpes and all. I mean, it's just, the list goes on and on and on with all the different foods that are being labeled even as organic, and they're toxic as hell.
Right. Yep. It's just a sign of the state of the world that we live in. And if I could go as just brings to mind two things in the scriptures. One is in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, which is the book of the curses, right? So just to kind of understand where we are and why things are the way that they are, and what we need to do to change it and improve it. So in this chapter 28, right, verse 1 starts at, listen, if you keep the commandments, this is going to happen to you. If you don't keep the commandments, this is what's going to happen to you. So later on in the chapter, I'll just read quickly. Let's see. Verse 16. So this is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 16. It says, "Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, and the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep." So what we're experiencing here, and I'll go to another scripture in a second, is a direct result of our disobedience in breaking the Most High's commandments. And we were living righteously, right? We would control our own agricultural systems. We would control our own food networks, right? We wouldn't have to go to our enemy to feed us, because essentially that's what we do. We are in a position where we rely on our enemy to feed us. That's foolishness, right? And in order to come out of that, we got to first return to the Lord. And then he gives us the ability and the clarity to start doing the thing, to start doing things the right way, right? Another one, Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 13. Just going in line to that same point, with the conditions that we're in is a direct result of our disobedience to the Most High. So this is Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 13. It says, and the Lord said, even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whither I will drive them, right? So the Lord is telling us the food's going to be defiled, because this is part of my judgments against you for your disobedience, for breaking my commandments, right? So what does that mean for us, right? Are we under the curses?
Absolutely.
How do we get from under the curses? By doing the stuff that got us, that broke the covenant in the first place, right? So now we are returned through Christ and keep the commandments. So we have an opportunity to alleviate ourselves from a lot of these issues that we're experiencing, because the problem, or rather the actual disease, is sin and wickedness. The symptoms of the disease is defiled marriages, defiled foods, defiled families. You know, that's what we get as a result of the sin that we commit when we transgress against the Most High. So for brothers and sisters who want to get into agriculture, who really want to do this work, all praises, that's wonderful, beautiful. Let's return, because when we look at the scriptures, we look at our history. That's who we are as a people. The nation of Israel is a nation of shepherds, a nation of husbandmen, of the keepers of the vineyard, the keepers of the field, right? The keepers and stewards of the Most High's creation. That's who we are. So for brothers and sisters that feel like that pull to kind of go back there, I'm with you. Let's do it, right? I'm here to help you, assist you. I've been growing stuff for quite some years. I started when I was young, but it was, small things and small spaces, that's what I tell people. And now, since I started my company, I started my micro farm, we've been growing, and every year it's a constant increase. As far as in Georgia, we have about, I want to say, 9-month growing season. And what that means is that pretty much 9 months of the year, the conditions are ideal for us to grow certain type of crops. This winter in Georgia was particularly harsh because we had an extended freeze, really hard freeze. Like, we had Arctic air that came down here and decimated the whole Southeast. As far as, if you didn't have your plants under cover, hoop house, greenhouse that was heated, you're 9 times out of 10, most of your plants didn't survive. I got wiped out about 80%. So, to the brothers and sisters that want to do it, just know that crop failure is a part of it, right? You're going to fail. However, I like to tell people that the only L's I take are lessons, right? So even when things don't go your way, there's something for you to learn and improve and do better the next time. It's a constant learning process. I learn every day. I see new things every day. Every time I step on my field, I learn something, brother, believe it or not. I see something that I didn't see before. It's utterly incredible. It's like you learn and you see the Most High in different ways every time you step out into the field. So again, for brothers and sisters who want to start, who feel like they're being called to do this work, I would definitely encourage you to do so. Step one, I would tell you, is to build your soil. That's like the foundational thing, because all your food is going to come from the ground, right? If you're growing in the ground. Some people like to grow hydroponically, aquaponically, things like that. That's much more intensive type of setups. But build your soil is number one thing that you have to do before you start. You got to build that solid foundation, make sure the nutrients in the soil and everything. And then from there, you can start to grow. And each year you can expand.
Yeah, you're right. And something you made reference to about the only L's is lessons. That's great because, something we talk about here in the NOA is about even when it's bad, it's still all good. So it's always good. It's never really, failure is only temporary as long as you see it that way.
Right.
And I'm glad you brought that up because you probably become very skilled at what you do due through the failure because you learn. You learn a lot. You learn to become better.
Right.
When it comes to the question I wanted to ask you, what's the question? When it comes to like farming, I saw a video of a guy that I follow on Instagram. And by the way, I'm going to post your Instagram link. You also have a Facebook link. And do you have a website as well? Remember?
No. Currently, I do not have a website, unfortunately. I'm planning on launching my website first quarter this year. So stand by for that. Right now, the only social media that I have for my company is on Instagram. So if anybody would like to contact me, all my information is on my Instagram page, my telephone number, my email. You can DM whatever you would like to do. Reach out, contact me. I'd love to talk to you and get you started.
So we'll make sure to have your Instagram and Facebook links in the description page for the brothers and sisters to follow up on.
Okay.
There's a guy that I follow on Instagram that is always giving tips and tricks, and I wanted to get your feedback on this because he just showed recently where he said to get the proper nutrients. He does a lot of I guess home stuff where he took a banana peel and put it in to some water, and he put something else in there. I'm trying to think, what the hell did he put in there? He just let it sit there for a while, and he says it produces some type of carbon nitrate or something. He said, and then he poured it into the plants, and the plants actually grew faster and healthier based on that. So. Is there like a lot of stuff that you teach that can save people a lot of money instead of relying, like you mentioned earlier, we rely on the enemy to feed us. A lot of the even farmers rely on the enemy for certain products. That's not good, like for example, and before you answer, matter of fact, why don't you answer that question? If there's any type of stuff that you teach people that can save them money instead of relying on the big oligarch corporations for their farming needs. And then I'm going to go into something else.
Yeah, for sure. So the example that you gave, that sounds like what he's doing is a mineral extraction, right?
Right.
So he's extracting the minerals from the banana, the food, into the water, and that makes it available to the plants, and then he gives it to the plants. So one of the big things, right, that you cannot rely on big ag, right? The agricultural system as we know it in this country that we live in, America, is on the brink of collapse, right? It already failed. Okay. A lot of times, like when we think about collapse, we think about Hollywood movies and we think about that 2-hour time span and then boom, everything happens in a small window. Real life works a little bit differently. Things take time. Buildings fall slow sometimes, slow motion, takes years sometimes, right? Things change suddenly. Things change gradually, then suddenly, right? That's kind of how the curve works. My big thing and what I do on my farm is that I try to minimize the amount of inputs that I bring in. As a small farmer like myself, I don't even have access to a lot of the chemicals and stuff that big ag uses because I'm small. I don't have the credentials in order to get those type of things anyway. And we don't need it because that's the stuff that's actually killing us. If we look at the origins of big ag and where this stuff comes from, it comes from the military industrial complex. They make these chemicals during warfare. They need a new use for them. They say, oh, let's give it to the farmers. Let's let them use it. And then us, we all getting poisoned as a result of it. Every technique that I use at my place, other places, I try to mimic the natural cycles, right? Like with that brother, it was a video you were referencing. He was doing a mineral extraction. I use those too. I grow plants to make fertilizer with, right? I grow plants to feed my soil, right? Everything that we need in order to be successful is literally right at our fingertips. You could go outside in your yard, in your backyard, right? And I could point some stuff out to you to say, okay, this is how you make fertilizer. You could use this plant, this plant, this plant, this plant, stuff that's right in your face. But if you didn't know, right? If you didn't know, okay, this plant could be used for this plant could be used for this. We throw it in some water, mineral extraction, water it down, let it sit for 3 months, something like that. Water the plants with it, adjust the issues that your plant have, boom, exponential growth factor in your plant. So I try to mimic ultra low cost ways because I have 4 daughters. I'm married. That takes a lot of resources to run a household, and you can't always go to somebody else to do something for you. You have to take the ownership yourself and do it. So yeah, there's a lot of techniques that I use. I get stuff for free all the time off Craigslist. I'm super thrifty. So you just kind of have to be that way in order to save. Some things good soil is very expensive, extremely expensive. We ain't not talking about fertilizers, just good soil, period. But the best soil that you can actually get and hold up is what you can make and build yourself. So that's why I was telling everyone, like, that's the first step. But as far as low cost techniques, brother, yes, sir, I am all about that because I cannot afford to prop up big ag. Like, who's doing that? Like, no, let's get off of this. Let's move away from them and go back to ancient techniques, stuff that we did in the past that worked very well for us and served us well. The only thing is work. Right? Another scripture I got for you. It's let's see. It's Ecclesiasticus 7:15. So let me get it real quick. Ecclesiasticus chapter 7, verse 15. It says, "Hate not laborious work, neither husbandry, which the Most High hath ordained." Right? I don't know if there's any other occupation in the scriptures that the Most High said, don't hate it, right? And there's a reason for that, because a lot of our people, man, we hate hard work, man. Not trying to be sweating in the sun. What? That's slave stuff. That's slave work. What are you doing, man? You are here. You are here killing yourself for this? No way. I'm gonna sit in front of this TV. I'll watch this video, do this Netflix, whatever, XYZ, play my video game, watch my basketball, whatever. And in the meanwhile, you're dying slowly because you don't want to do what the Most High has ordained for us to do, which is a part of it is doing the husbandry. So low cost all the way, brother. We have to be that way because if not, we just, like you said, we just relying on somebody else for just another link in the chain. So yeah, low cost all the way. Ancient techniques that mimic the natural cycles. That's what we do at Davis and Daughter Farms.
Now, are you aware that the companies that process and manufacture the feed for the chickens were putting poisons in the feed for chickens to not lay eggs for the past 4 or 5 months now? A lot of farmers have come hip to the game and to the bamboozlement, and they now started buying different feed. And now the chickens are laying eggs because this is alleged. We can't state this as a fact here, but we all know. But allegedly, there's some type of protein within the egg yolk that can prevent the human body from getting SARS or being affected by the SARS alleged virus. So now that is pretty much the word that's out, a lot of farmers are getting hip to the game. And their chickens are starting to lay eggs because they changed their feed. I wanted to get your insight on that and what you think about that and anything you can share that we may not know about this.
Yeah, there was a lot of rumors online going through social media of both. Most of the evidence that I saw was from small farmers and like landowners that was raising their own chickens. And they were using a chicken feed, I believe that's they purchased from a big box store called Tractor Supply. And they were alleging that they were feeding their chickens this type of feed that they were buying from the big box store. The chickens stopped laying eggs. Then they switched the feed, and then the chickens started to lay eggs again, right? So yeah, that was all over, social media by a lot of people that's kind of in the network of dealing with agriculture, So going back to your question that you asked me before, right? Again, at Davidson Daughter Farms, we're trying to create what's called closed loop systems, right? Which essentially is a perpetual motion machine. If we look at the Most High's creation, right? Things go in cycles. It's a cycle. There's a day cycle. There's a 12-hour cycle. There's a year cycle. There's 6 months. There's a decade. There's a century. There's cycles in everywhere in the Most High's creation. So if you want to raise birds, right, animals, I plan on starting to raise small game birds myself this upcoming spring. You don't want to buy feed, even though it's cheaper for you to buy the feed and feed that to your chickens to get your eggs like that versus you going to the store and buying someone else's eggs, right? However, you're still relying on someone else to feed your animals, okay? So a closed loop system would be you have your own way to feed your animals and your animals feed you, and it kind of goes in this perpetual circle like this, right? Over and over and over again. One way to do that is through composting and building your soil. Like one of the things that I'm working on, and we're going to write a grant for, hopefully coming up here soon. That's one at another urban farm that I work at. We're going to try to utilize an insect called black soldier fly.
Oh,
and with the black soldier fly, oh yeah, it's an incredible creature. And what they do is they are some of the best composters on planet Earth. A lot of people know about earthworms or ray wigglers are the composted worms, right?
Right.
And you feed that insect food scraps, and they turn it into frass, which is their manure. And then you take their manure, and then you get that to your plants. You eat your plants, you feed yourself, whatever's left over, you give it back to the worms, they eat it, they give you poo, you get it to the plants, you eat it, you see what I'm saying? That's the closed loop system that we have to create here. You can do that with chickens as well, right? They can eat the larvae of the black soldier flies. Chickens have ability, what they do is called scratching, and they forage naturally. You can grow fodder for your animals and feed them. There's things that we can actively do in order to create closed loops. And that's something that I'm actively working on here on my farm and on other people's farms too.
That's great, brother. You teaching people a lot of good things. Black soldier fly. First time I've heard that about that insect.
But I guarantee you've seen it though.
Where you think I've seen it at?
Oh, all over the place. It has the range of that insect goes from all the way, if we're just looking at our continent, right? Just like this part of the world. The range from that insect goes all the way from Canada all the way down to the tip of Chile, right? This is the range of this insect. It prefers tropical environments, right? It goes dormant during the colder months. But if I show you some images of this insect, you're gonna be like, I've seen that before. Most people confuse it for like a wasp. It kind of looks like a wasp a little bit, but it doesn't behave the same way. But again, if I show it to you, you're gonna start seeing it. Then that's kind of how it works.
Okay.
Like, well, once you become aware of something, right? When you become aware of it, then it comes into this front part here, and then you're gonna see it all over the place.
Interesting. So let's talk about how the enemy is attacking agriculture, right? And I want to talk about one of the biggest contributors that supposedly is not in existence anymore. When you look up Monsanto. It says it doesn't exist anymore. I'm going to read to you something here. Monsanto, in full Monsanto Company, formerly 1933 to 1964, Monsanto Chemical Company, and 1901 to 1933, Monsanto Chemical Works. American corporation that was a leading producer of chemical, agricultural, and biochemical products. After being acquired by Bayer in 2018, it ceased to exist as an entity, which we now know that Bayer owns it. It's very much active. They're probably the ones that put the chemicals in the feed. It says, what was the Monsanto scandal? The company once manufactured controversial product. It said once manufactured such as insecticide DDT, PCBs, Agent Orange, and a recombinant bovine growth hormone. It's a seed patenting model was criticized as biopiracy, and a threat to biodiversity in an invasive species. Now, I know this through my research a long time ago. They created a seed that I know is still being manufactured to this day. It's one of the reasons why we got seedless everything. Everything is seedless these days. They created a seed that does not reproduce at all. It's a seed that basically is self-destructive. It's a suicidal. They call it the suicidal seed. So I wanted to get your knowledge and insight on this thing called Monsanto and just overall how the enemy and what they're doing presently when it comes to attacking the foods, because I know you know way better than I can ever explain.
Well, yeah. It's, when we dealing with these companies, they just they change names, but it's the same thing. It's just they kind of get bigger over time here, and bigger fish eat the little fish, and they just kind of take on the duties and responsibilities of the thing that they consumed. They just become larger and larger and larger. Yeah, and Monsanto, their name kind of got out there, and they got a bad rep. Like people, when you heard that, a lot of people, that's a negative connotation associated with that name. And so I think a lot of times they like to hide themselves behind the names and behind the logos and things like that. Actually, I went to a workshop on yesterday, and a part of the workshop was it was half fruit tree pruning, and the second half was a person talking about pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, things like that. And it was a professor from UGA was doing this particular part of the workshop. He brought up Bayer, and we talked about glyphosate, we talked about Roundup, and what these things do in the environment that they're in, and and additionally what they do to our bodies, right? We have to get off this stuff as much as it's possible and reason, right? We looked at the scripture earlier. I read it to you in Ezekiel. The Most High said, we're gonna eat our defiled bread up on the Gentiles, right? However, you can still make a concerted effort to try to make better choices and selections in your own life, right? And I would say this might sound a little crazy, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Like my children, right? Because I've been doing this for about 4 or 5 years now, right? Like my oldest daughter, she came up with a nickname for the tomatoes that are in the grocery store. She calls them tomatoes, versus the tomatoes that we grow on my land and that I get from growers that I know. They taste like different things. Essentially, it is my personal belief that they are not the same thing. This is something I've experienced. The more crop selection that I utilize and I try to get my hands on, try to get some experience with, when I compare the things that I buy from the big box stores, when I tell you that there is a considerable night and day difference in taste. There's a night and day difference in how the food makes you feel. I'm not even talking about the stuff that's in the box, y'all. Please understand what I'm saying to you. I'm talking about the stuff that when you go in the produce section of the store, okay, the produce part that people look at and say, okay, yeah, this is food, right?
Right.
Y'all, it ain't the same.
No.
So one of the things that I'm going to do here in the future is once the season kind of picks up, I'm going to start doing some workshops on my own. I'm going to go back into the classroom again, into the schoolhouse again. I have a lot of colleagues that I love that I still keep in contact with. So I'm going to start going into the schools again, and I'm going to start doing side-by-side comparisons. I'm going to bring a tomato from my farm and one from the store. I'm going to bring a piece of kale from my farm and a piece of kale from the store. And we're going to do side-by-side comparisons and look at these vegetables versus what you buy versus what you can grow on your own. And when I tell you, brother, it is a complete night and day difference, okay? Smell, taste, touch, how long does the food last? I grew a variety of heirloom winter squash last season. This is a variety that comes from, I want to say, kind of like up north a little bit. I think indigenous people grew it up there. That's called Long Island cheese. It looks like a cheese wheel pumpkin, right? It's kind of small. Well, some of them get kind of big, but it's not a pumpkin you would think like those big Halloween type pumpkins. It's not like that. It's kind of flatter and it looks like a cheese wheel, right? Brother, I have these squashes in my storage room. They've been sitting in there for 18 months. And they're good. They're fine. I lost a couple here along the way, but the food lasts way longer. So, yeah, we have to move away from big ag. Like I was telling you too as well, it's to the point where you have to know your farmer. You have to know your farmer. If you don't know your farmer, or if you're not the farmer, right, something's wrong here. Like, you know the dentist, you know the doctor, you know the mechanic, you know these people. You call them up, talk to them on the phone.
Well,
hey,
knowing your doctor these days is questionable, but go ahead, brother.
Well, if you got a real doctor, you're right. If you got a doctor who's classically trained in Western medicine, who only comes to the room and talk to you for 3 minutes and try to assess you and then walk out the room and you'll never talk to them again. Yeah, you would even know this, but it's the same principle, right? You don't know this person. How can they possibly give you counsel to treat yourself if they only talk to you for 3 minutes, 4 minutes? There's no way. There's no way. So yeah, we're moving into that place where we have to know the farmer, or you have to be the farmer,
right?
And that's how that's how you're going to get nutrient-dense food that's good for you. That's not poison.
I'm very much looking forward to eating some of your crops when I go down to Georgia in the end of next month. I'm going to be eating a lot of your crops. I'm going to try to eat your stuff throughout the whole entire Passover, brother.
Praises.
But interesting. Back in 2006 or 2007, I met a brother on my radio show. I was a part of a radio team in Rockland County, New York, in Pomona, and I met a brother Haitian brother who he put me onto alkaline water through the Kangen water system. And what was interesting, they did a presentation of a brother that I was working with at the time, Rob Shields. I'll never forget. So what they did was they took a peach, like the products you talked about that you buy at the supermarket that you think are healthy for you, right? This is the healthy stuff. Even the stuff that says organic, it's not really organic. They just putting that label on there. So he took a peach. Now, with the Kangen water system, it's ionized alkaline water. So what it's doing, it's ionizing the water that comes out the faucet. Not only is it taking out all the chemicals, but it's electrically charging it to make it alkaline. And you can make it 7.5 to 9.5. Now, there's a separate tube that comes out. That tube is taking out the acidity within the water, because water has acid in it. A lot of people don't realize this, even bottled water. So it takes out the acidity. So we leaked out the acidity into a separate bowl, took the peach and dipped the peach into the acid water. And the acid water basically took all of the pesticides and chemicals that was on the peach. So then when you saw the water was pitch black. So you take the peach out and then put the peach in alkaline water and let it sit there for a minute or two to clean it. And that peach tasted so different than the peach if you would have just washed it with some tap water and ate it. So it literally took all the pesticides off and put the peach kind of in its natural state. And the taste was night and day. It was amazing. It tasted so much better. It was more pure. So very interesting. Very interesting. So, you know, like, what do you think people should do in today's world, in today's climate where, number one, we have a ton of inflation right now. So things were not just bad before inflation, but because of it, people are becoming more conscious of their spending now more than ever. I mean, people got to budget just their gas expenses to make it through the month, to make sure that they're able to go to work.
Right.
So what is some advice that you could give people when it comes to purchasing their food? Because it's something that I would like to get a better understanding of, because if you want to eat good food, you, like you said, you got to know who your farmer is. So what are some of the things like that you suggest for people to do and start being proactive in getting a better sense of where their food is coming from and how they're getting that food, what it looks like as far as what they're going to be spending, and where they should start looking within their communities to get that food?
Okay. So the idea is that you want to shorten your supply chain. Okay. So there's a certain amount of steps that an item takes before it gets to you, right? You want to have that item travel as few steps as possible before it gets to you, right? So if we're thinking about degrees of connection, right? So 0 would be yourself, right? It's you doing it. You're growing the food, you're producing it, right? 1 would be that you personally know the farmer or the grower and that you're buying directly from them, right? That's 1. 2 would be either a farmer's market or something called a CSA, right? So it's, that stands for Community Supported Agriculture. And how that works is typically you have a grower, normally it's a farmer themselves actually run the CSA, and they create a market for their products by going to other farmers, gathering other farmers' produce, collecting it into a box, into a subscription type service that you pay for, and you either get it delivered to your house or you go and pick it up, right? So that's what I try to tell people to do. Like, and for those of us that live in these urban centers, right, there's a lot of urban agriculture that's going on across this country. I think there's certain people in positions of power in government that know that the food system cannot continue in this current form. They know it's dead, right? And so they're putting things out in order to try to create a parallel system, right? And essentially, that's what I'm telling you about, right? So if you're serious and you want to eat better and you want to get more nutrient-dense food, 0, 1, 2, right? You do it yourself, that's going to be the best, right? Even to the point, bro, where there's techniques where growers put seeds in their mouth, under their tongue, 5, 10, 15 seconds, then plant it. Allegedly, the seed has the ability to read your DNA, to read your body, analyze you. When you plant it, it's going to replace the deficits that's in your body. Now, see, if you're not doing the work, you're not going to get that part. You're going to get some nutrient-dense stuff, but you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that part of it. You see what I'm saying? Even to the point where You're out in your yard. You spit in your yard. You blow snot rockets in your yard, right? You're actually feeding the microbiome, the actual microbes in the soil, and you're teaching them to give you what you need for yourself. Okay. So
Wow.
I encourage everybody to grow something. You could do something.
Brother,
You could do something.
Brother, did you just say, you just blew my mind right now, bro.
Oh, yes. It's powerful.
Before we go back in, I need you to repeat that about the whole seed and putting it in your mouth. But before we do that, let's go to a scripture. Let's go to Genesis 1:29. Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible. But it says, "And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which it is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat." Now, you just said, put a seed under your tongue, okay, for a couple of minutes, right?
No, seconds.
Couple of seconds. Okay, so let's say 30 seconds. Let's just say 30 seconds.
Okay.
You take that seed out, and when you plant it, the seed has now registered your DNA and genetic coding into the seed for it to grow?
Yep. That's one thing that seeds can do.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. And so
you just blew my mind, bro. I just learned something. I mean, I'm going to be stuck on this all day today, bro.
So you got to grow here. That's the thing, right? That's the ultimate message. And that's what I've been advocating for years now, that we have to return to agriculture. We have to return to husbandry in some way, shape, form, fashion of another, right? There's all the things can exist on a scale, right? And I want people to understand, like, small farms are real farms. Like, we have to get this programming out of our mind. Like, we see these big tractors and all these thousands of acres and these big corn, wheat fields and all this. Listen, that's a corporation. The farm, old school farm, is you, your backyard, your front yard, your patio, your garage, your roof. Wherever you can grow, that's where you grow. Another note about seeds. Seeds learn, okay? If you continually grow a plant, save the seed, plant it again, the seeds have the ability to understand the environment. They change and they adapt. And over generations, they're going to become more adapted to your environment. They're going to become more disease resistant. They're going to become more pest resistant. And they're going to get stronger over time, right? So that's the power of seed. And if you stay in the same area, they're going to get adapted to that environment, that localized microclimate. Even if it's just your own personal property, if you got half an acre, quarter acre, eighth of an acre, your back deck, your windowsill, whatever it is, if you grow that plant and you keep perpetuating that plant year after year after year after year, it's going to get better. It's going to get stronger. That's the beauty and power of this. If we actually take up the mantle and do this work.
Wow, man. I'm going to have to try that now. I mean, and that's why I read Genesis 1:29, because the Most High, he gave us everything we need, man. That's why we don't need to rely on the enemy for this illusion of support that they're giving that's really just destroying us. And they're trying to destroy us from within, right?
Yep.
This is all spiritual warfare, all of it.
Right.
From the food to the way society functions, to the fornication, the perversions. What are some of the things that you love to grow, you know, as far as what you're growing now? Because I know you mentioned kale, which is great. Mm-hmm. What are some of the other things that you grow that you really like to grow?
Ooh, something I like to grow. Wow. So many plants, man. It's like asking somebody what their favorite kid is. I would say the most enjoyable thing that I had the most fun growing is watermelon. Okay, so even if we do this real quick history about watermelon, right? Like, we got this.
Oh, by the way, and tell the brothers and sisters about your particular watermelon, how much they weigh. Okay, don't forget to mention that.
Okay, great. So, yeah, I've been growing the same variety of watermelon called it's an heirloom variety. It's called Moon and Stars, right?
Right.
And I've been growing that for the past, I want to say 3 years now. And every year that I grow the plant and save my seed, the plants are getting bigger, the fruits are getting bigger, they're tasting better. It's incredible. So the year one, when I started out, I want to say the biggest fruit that I got was maybe is in the 10s or 20s. I have to go back and look at my Instagram page to see the exact number. That's kind of like my little farming journal here, right? How I'm documenting my journey through my Instagram page, and it also serves as a portfolio to highlight some of my work. Year two, I got bigger, it was in the 30s. And then year three here, this last summer, I got the biggest fruit ever. And it was, I want to say 45, 48 pounds. It was a monster. The one that's on my page, I think that's the biggest one. I ended up giving the watermelon to my next door neighbor. Yeah, watermelon's been fun, been great. I love that variety. One of the things I have also enjoyed doing was a Native American technique called the Three Sisters. And what that is a polyculture, right? So what we're used to seeing and what we've been taught that what agriculture is and what farming is these large monocultures, these large fields of corn, large fields of wheat, large fields of soybeans, right? And the reason why they do that is because it makes economical sense for them, right? It's not efficient. They're destroying the soil. They're destroying the planet, because that's not how you're supposed to grow anything. If we look in the scriptures, the Most High tells us supposed to give the land rest and things like that. People are not doing that at all. So they're just destroying the environment. So with the polyculture, you're intentional about your plant selection and what you put in place. So this is old school Native American technology, right? So what they would do is they plant, it's primarily 3 plants with the possibility of a 4th. Thus the name Three Sisters. So with this polyculture, the first sister is corn. The second sister is a pole bean or bush bean. And the third sister is some type of pumpkin squash, right? The 4th sister, which can replace or also assist the corn, is sunflower. So check this out, how this works and how we've come so far away from the Most High and understanding his creation. Corn is a heavy feeder, meaning they uptake a lot of nutrients out the ground, primarily nitrogen, in order for you to get that nice ear of corn, right? You got to really feed those plants. However, what you can do is you plant nitrogen fixers into the soil. So you put the soil you put the nitrogen, into the soil. So you pick a plant, it's called legumes, beans, certain type of beans, right? You plant them, they take the nitrogen out the air, put it into the soil for the corn to then uptake and then give you that big ear corn. The squash plant, what they do is they are low ground cover, right? So they shade the ground, they have real big leaves, they shade the ground, they keep the sun off the soil, and they help the soil to retain its moisture content. The corn or the sunflower, whatever one you decide to plant, they act as a trellis, and your beans grow up the corn stalk, right? So if you think about layers like top canopy, middle, and then ground, right? This is how this works. Boom, boom, boom. So at 3 levels, you have food production going, right? Now, you won't get as much production as if you have a large monocrop, right? However, what happens is you get nutrient and then stuff that works together. And even if you eat the 3 plants together, corn, beans, squash, you eat them together, they work symbiotically in your body as well. So
what does it do for you?
Oh, as far as all the health benefits, right?
Okay.
Because there's certain things, you know how certain foods like you eat, and even though it has like nutrients in it, it's not always bioavailable to your body, right? So there's certain other enzymes that exist in the other foods that help break down, let's say the corn or anything like that, and makes it more bioavailable for your body to actually uptake the nutrients. So to answer your question, the Three Sisters technique has been hands down one of my favorite things to do, and growing those heirlooms variety of watermelon has been incredible.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Brother Josiah is in the chat room and put down purple collards. Peace and greetings to you, Josiah. And by the way, I forgot to mention this, but anybody that's tuning into the broadcast, because I know many of you are, you're just not in the chat room. This is a time to ask Brother Walter, any questions you may have, any comments. Put them in the chat room while you're listening to the live broadcast. That's what the chat room is for. So yeah, Brother Josiah said purple collards. What do you know about purple collards?
Oh yeah, the purple tree collards. So that's a beautiful plant. It is a perennial collard, meaning that it's year round, right? It's a permanent plant, right? Perennial, permanent. Versus an annual plant, meaning that you grow it every year, right? You grow it, you harvest it, you use it, and then you got to plant again next season, right? The cool thing about the purple tree collards is that they are perennial, meaning that they grow constantly year after year. They grow all year round. And it's a collard that grows into the shape of a tree, pretty much. It's an incredible plant. The history behind it, allegedly, it was actually one of the few plants that came with our people on the slave ships to this country. One of the techniques that our people did in the past when we were traveling here, right, they actually braided seeds into people's hair. And that was one of the seeds that allegedly was braided into people's hair. And when they got to this part of the world, they grew it. So I'm actually experimenting with a couple different varieties this season as well, because the purple tree collards are great and they're wonderful. However, I went to a growers conference, I want to say last year, and I met a bunch of farmers from out west, California, stuff like that. So we had like a seed swap, right? So I had all my seeds set up. We just exchange it. People just come talk to you. We just trade in, right? It's a beautiful thing. Oh, also, that's a great thing to do too as well. Like if you any seed swaps in your area, definitely go to a lot of growers like myself. We're just trying to live, but at the same time, we want to take care of our people in our community. They're going to give you seeds for free. I've had people tell me they haven't bought seeds in years because they get it for free from other growers, just being a network and working with each other, right? But anyway, the growers from California, it was like, you got purple tree collards? What's this? They was like, oh, no. They was like, nobody, I didn't think anybody in Georgia knew about these, right? Because they grow them out west because their weather patterns are different than here in Georgia. And people kept asking me, I was like, how are you having them keep growing in your area? Like, what are you doing to like keep the plant alive? So I'm like, I'm not doing really anything. Like, I'm just growing it like it is doing fine, right? So I knew then I had something that it probably wasn't going to continue the way it's been going. And sure enough, when that frost came, that was my big purple tree collard got decimated and it was dead. However, I read something phenomenal, great a while ago, and it says, when you give something away, you save it for the future, right? So I was able to take cuttings from that plant and give those cuttings away to people. So my plant lives on. I was able to save seed from it and plant other ones. So the plant lives on, right? But the purple tree collard is a great one. Josiah, I'm experimenting with some new varieties this season. So I'm looking forward to giving you some different ones and let me know what you think about those too. So yeah, collards, any type of perennial plant that you plant it, you're good. You can keep eating from it. That's something you want to definitely add into your landscape.
Wow, wonderful. You're providing such great information. I can't wait to eat some of your watermelons because I think I told you this on the phone where I haven't eaten a seeded watermelon in over 2 years.
Mm,
Even the farmers markets out here don't have seeded watermelons, which is very weird. So
yeah, that's strange.
and I'm gonna have to find a CSA. What does CSA stand for? Community what?
Community supported agriculture.
Yeah, let me write that down because I was writing that down and I didn't want to lose my train of thought here. But community supported agriculture. And I'm pretty sure here in St. Petersburg, Florida, they have this.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna have to find it.
Yeah, y'all have a longer growing season there. So different varieties of things can grow, versus what I can do here in my zone, right? So I'm pretty sure you got some people around you.
There is I get this raw unfiltered honey.
Okay.
And it's really, really good. It's from GK from the GK honey farm out here.
Okay.
And I love it. I love this stuff. It's really,
praises.
Really good. But I want to get to the point where I'm ingesting nothing but pure stuff, pure organic stuff, where I know exactly where it's coming from and who it's coming from if it's not coming from myself.
Right.
And now I can add you to the list of people that I want to deal with when it comes to what I'm putting in my body and all the good, stuff that I need, all the nutrients, because I'm getting up there in age. So I need to really start focusing on making sure that I'm staying on top of my health, because I'm getting to that age where colon cancer could be a risk for all these different diseases.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to go into briefly is, what is it that you're looking to do, like moving forward from here on out? What are some of your goals and what are the things that you are aspiring to accomplish when serving the Most High and growing to serve organically?
At the end of the day, the goal is one, it's very simple. Keep the commandments and live, right? Make it to the Most High's kingdom. Establish the kingdom in my house, in my mind, in my dealings with brothers and sisters, right? That's the ultimate goal. And how that looks for me, and one of the things how that manifests itself in my life in the physical realm is being of servitude, right? Being of service to brothers and sisters and helping them out. Concerning the food and the farming aspect, right? Long term, like right now, one of the things that I do, I contract with a great urban farm here in Atlanta called the Truly Living Well Urban Agriculture Center, something like that. But you can just look up TLW. And we have a great mid-sized composting operation there. And one of the things that I've been working on is learning how to turn something that people consider waste into a resource. Like I told you, the first step is to build soil, right? And if you want to grow, because if not, you're going to be beholden to someone else in order to do that. So I want to be able to build soil for brothers and sisters, put it in their hand, right? And then allow them to use that in order to grow, right? To support them, right? That's one of them. The big things that I do is I try to get brothers and sisters in the community to grow their own food, to get that connection back to the land, to get that connection back to the Most High through that avenue. So yeah, that's the plan, just to keep growing, to like grow people and to grow food. That's what I'm doing over here at Davis and Daughter Farms, So here in West Georgia, I primarily grow out of my house here. I have grow space in my basement that I do indoor stuff, and which is primarily microgreens, oyster mushrooms, seed starting, things like that. Outside is all my traditional crops, market garden, vegetables, and things like that. Primarily, I grow those for my own household and for my friends and family, my neighbors. Like I told you, I gave my neighbor the big watermelon. Man, such huge smiles. It's incredible, And so we got that barter system going on in my neighborhood where we work with each other. I strongly encourage brothers and sisters to do that too. Like, how can I say this? Like, make sure that you're not relying on the piece of paper that says Federal Reserve note on it to get you goods and services. Okay, you have to build a network and become part of a community of skilled, caring, kind people, right? That have different talents that y'all can support each other without it always being some type of capital exchange or exchange with this. It's not money. It's actually currency, right? So
Right.
we have to we got to get away from that to a certain degree, okay? And how that works is you got to build your own networks, right? Even with your neighbors right next door. So yeah, that's pretty much my ministry, brother, is to grow people and to grow plants. So Lord willing, we keep growing here in West Georgia. My family and I, we've recently purchased about 22 acres of pristine Belizean rainforest. That country is located in Central America. So the Davidson Daughter Farm is looking to expand here, and not only here in the States, but also outside the country as well.
Wonderful.
And yeah, so we're going to keep making compost. We're going to keep making black gold. We're going to keep growing. That's the plan.
And I wanted to pull up a scripture here in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 3. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned and have not charity, it profit me nothing. And I think it's a wonderful thing that you are an example of charity. And I think that it's very important that brothers and sisters understand that we got to continue to serve and serve. Instead of just serving ourselves, we got to serve each other, because when we serve each other, we're serving the Most High.
That's it.
So with that being said, I know you're a busy man, and I'm glad that you took out time out of your busy schedule to have this discussion with me and to be interviewed by me on the Network of Awareness. So I want to wrap things up here and kind of sum things up on what are some of the things that you would like to bring out that we haven't covered. And then after that, any final comments?
Let's see. Take a look. Let's see. I talked about Ecclesiastes, 7:15, about not hating husbandry, right? It's important. And just full disclosure, brothers and sisters that's known me for a long time know that I live my life like an open book, right? If you pick up the phone and you call me or you come to me and ask me a question, I'm going to give you the open, honest answer, right, at the time, okay? And I'm going to tell you, husbandry is not, it ain't for the faint of heart. You're going to bleed in the field. You're going to cry in the field, right? At the same time, you're going to laugh in the field. You're going to have victories in the field. You're going to have defeats in the field too. And it just all comes as a part of it, right? And as long as you love the work and you know the power and the purpose behind what you're doing, and the Most High is with you, He will definitely give you the increase. Exponential growth is real. Like it's so real. And I see it every time I step out and on the farm, how that small seed, right? Christ gave us the example, right? Of that mustard seed, right? Turning into that great tree, right? And if you see a mustard seed, man, it is small. It's tiny. I got some growing outside right now. Those plants get monstrous. Like that little seed, literally, brother, it turns into a tree. But you get a different appreciation for that when you see it in action, right? It stops becoming theoretical and it becomes practical and it becomes much more tangible to you when you see it happening right in front of your face. You can reach out and you touch it, be like, yo, this is incredible. So yeah, I just full disclosure, just want brothers and sisters to know that it ain't for the weak. I know, those of us that are a little bit older that have family members that have a agricultural background, know what the farm is, and we got some experiences, but for the most part, I think we've been kind of greatly cut off. And just know that in returning to do this work, you're gonna have good days, bad days, but I'm telling you, at the end, it's all worth it. And the growth, what you get out of it versus what you put in, is exponential. So you're gonna win in the end, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Well said. I was just thinking about something you brought up earlier about putting the seed under your tongue for a couple of seconds and planting it. I think that as a body, as children of Israel, I think we need to take that. I'm going to use that as an analogy or metaphor, so to speak. But I feel like we need to take Christ and the teachings of Christ, of the Messiah, and put that under our tongue and then plant that seed, for everybody to benefit from. You know what I mean? Because as long as we start doing that, we're gonna be better off as a nation, as a people, and as brothers and sisters that are dealing with this days of revelations that we're in. Because we truly are in the days of revelations. But I think that there's a reason for brothers like you and I and many other brothers and sisters on why we exist present day in these days of revelations. I think we were built throughout the generations to endure this time. And I'm so grateful that to have you on the show, but also to have a brother like you in the congregation that's doing the type of work that you're doing, because it's vitally important for us to gain or get to that salvation through Christ. And also really to just, really be, one thing about me is like, it's great to read scriptures. It's great to be rooted in the word. But if you're not living it, what are you doing? I mean, you're just reading a book. That's all you're doing.
That's what it is. Yeah. Because go back to what you said about, let's look at the example of Christ. Let's look at how Christ showed his Godhead by how he dealt with the people around him, right? He showed that in his relationships with the apostles, with the Pharisees, with the wicked of our people, with the righteous of our people, right? He showed us this is because the commandments is something that how we live. It's what we do. It's not only what we believe, right? It's our actions, right? Faith without works is dead. If you don't have the works, if you're not living it, being the example in your interactions, how you to deal with people, then it's all for naught. You're not really doing it. You're just kind of deceiving yourself. You might as well just go rub on a genie bottle or something and you be hoping and wishing for something because you're not really doing it. You know what I'm saying? So we got to be active and proactive and look at the example of Christ and how you dealt. Yep.
Is there anything else you do that you want to discuss and that you haven't brought about?
Just final words for me. Just to the brothers and sisters listening, just keep the commandments and live, and keep the commandments and die. Whatever you do, just keep the commandments, follow the example of Christ, and let's grow some food and let's grow some people. I'm here to help in any way, shape, or fashion. Again, my expertise is in education. That's what I spent the vast majority of my life doing. I consider myself to be an expert in education because, again, I spent 15 years of my life doing that. I've been farming now for the past 4 years. I consider myself a novice farmer. Okay. However, those 4 years of experience that I have, I've made a lot of mistakes. I learned a lot, right? So if you're just getting started, you can leapfrog me, right? Meaning I can give you my 4 years. And so here's what I've learned. Right. So you can avoid some of the pitfalls and stuff that I had to kind of make because I didn't really have that, right? I'm YouTube University before I got connected into the Urban Ag Network here in Atlanta. And now I'm in this network here in Atlanta and I'm getting a lot of different resources and older brothers and sisters that's willing to take time out and sit and talk and help out. So I would say, again, let's grow some food. Let's grow some people. Let's keep the commandments and follow the example of Christ.
Yes. Well said, brother, because you hit it right on the nail on the head when you said we gotta, teach each other so we don't make the same mistakes, so we could grow faster than the next man.
Right.
I'm all about that. I something I really focus on with my nephews, brother Julian and Take One. Those are my nephews, my spiritual nephews, and I'm always giving them education so that they could be better than me and not make the same mistakes that I did in their young lives as men in this faith. So, brother, I want to thank you again. You provided a wealth of information. Brothers and sisters that are tuning into the live broadcast or are going to be downloading the show on the archive, definitely check out Brother Walter. And it's a family business, right? It's a family business because it's called I have it right here in my description page. I want to make sure that I read this correctly. So it's called Davis and Daughter Farms LLC Urban Farm. And he's got 4 daughters and a wife.
Yes.
So he's in a house filled with women.
I got a cat too, female cat, brother. I'm surrounded.
I guess sometimes it gets with your masculine energy, it gets a little lonely in there, huh?
Oh, nah. I got plenty of company. I'm good, man. We're good. Yeah.
So I want to thank you again, brothers and sisters. I got the link to his Instagram page on the back end. I'll put his Facebook page as well, but it's Instagram / Davis.and.daughter.farms / it's in the description box. Go to it, follow him. And as he said, all his information is in there, so you can contact him for any information on if you want to become a home grower. He does he does consultations for home growers, and you can learn a lot. So very much looking forward to meeting you during the Passover because I'm going to be down there for a little over a week. So can't wait to go to that urban farm you talked about as well.
Oh yeah.
Besides the one that you have. So yes, brothers and sisters, I want to say when you live in the present, there is always an opportunity for a new beginning. And don't look for the light at the end of the tunnel because the light is and always will be within you. So light up the tunnel and find your way through the darkness. And all praises to the Most High in Christ, our Heavenly Father and His Son. And also just remember, brothers and sisters, that we're in this together all the time. So peace, love, and light to you, brothers and sisters. Barakatah and shalom. And we're going to exit out of here.
Shalom, everybody.
This concludes the Network of Awareness podcast. For more information on the Network of Awareness, please subscribe via email to our website, networkofawareness.com, and follow us on Spreaker.com or any other listening apps you use. For any questions about the NOA, email us at ORRA@networkofawareness.com. Thank you for listening to one of the fastest growing podcast shows on society and culture in America and abroad. When you live in the present, there's always an opportunity for a new beginning. Peace and blessings.